Welcome to Paranormal News on the ParaX Radio Network. Paranormal News is produced by Genesis Creations Entertainment. I'm your host, Bonnie Vent. Paranormal News is sponsored by the new ebook, Is My House Haunted? A Practical Guide. Have you ever asked yourself the question, is my house haunted? Looking for a do-it-yourself way to find the answers? This ebook walks you through all the basics. There are also forms that you can fill out to log the activity and your experiences. For more information, please go to www.sdparanormal.com and look for Is My House Haunted? A Practical Guide. Our first story comes from the Wall Street Journal. Look who's irrational now. The Gallup organization, under contract to Baylor Institute for Studies of Religion, asked American adults a series of questions to gauge credulity. Do dreams foretell the future? Did ancient advanced civilizations such as Atlantis exist? Can places be haunted? Is it possible to communicate with the dead? Will creatures like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster someday be discovered by science? The answers were added up to create an index of belief in occult and the paranormal. While 31% of people who never worship express strong beliefs in these things, only 8% of people who attended a house of worship more than once a week did. Even among Christians, there were disparities. While 36% of those belonging to the United Church of Christ, Senator Barack Obama's former denomination, expressed strong beliefs in the paranormal, only 14% of those belonging to the Assembly of God, Sarah Palin's former denomination, did. In fact, the more traditional and evangelical the respondent, the less likely he was to believe in, for instance, the possibility of communicating with people who are dead. Surprisingly, while increased church attendance and membership in a conservative denomination has a powerful negative effect on paranormal beliefs, higher education doesn't. 2 years ago, 2 professors published another study in the Skeptical Inquirer showing that while less than 1/4 of college freshmen surveyed expressed a general belief in such superstitions as ghosts, psychic healings, haunted houses, demonic possession, clairvoyance, and witches, the figure jumped to 31% in college seniors and 34% of graduate students. Our next article comes from Discovery. Could an inner zombie be controlling your brain? Evidence suggests the self-aware part of our brains isn't always in charge. We like to see ourselves as being completely conscious of our thought processes, of how we feel, of the decisions we make, and our reasons for making them. When we act, it is our conscious selves doing the acting. But starting in the late 1960s, psychologists and neurologists began to find evidence that our self-aware part is not always in charge. Researchers discovered that we are deeply influenced by perceptions, thoughts, feelings, and desires about which we have no awareness. This research raised the disturbing possibility that much of what we think and do is thought and done by an unconscious part of our brain, an inner zombie. Some of the earliest evidence of this zombie came from studies of people who had suffered brain injuries. In the 1970s, British psychologists Elizabeth Warrington and Lawrence Weisskranz showed a series of words to a group of people with amnesia who promptly forgot the list. A few minutes later, Warrington and Weisskranz showed them the first letters of each of the words they had just seen and forgotten and asked the amnesiacs to add some additional letters to make a word. Any word would do. The amnesiacs consistently chose the words they had seen and forgotten. The inner zombie, somewhere beyond awareness, retained memories of the words. Our inner zombie may also be able to control our bodies. In 1988, a woman known as Patient DF suffered carbon monoxide poisoning and lost the ability to recognize objects and shapes. Her eyes were still relaying information to her brain, but the connection between regions of her brain had been damaged so that she was no longer aware of what was before her. Scientists at the University of Western Ontario set a card on a table in front of DF and then held up a disc with a slot in it. They asked DF to hold the card at the same angle as the slot. She couldn't do it. But when asked to put the card in the slot as if she were mailing a letter, she immediately and knowingly turned the card to the correct angle and slipped it in the slot. For more information on these stories, please go to www.sdparanormal.com and the Paranormal News feed page. Don't forget, sign up for a free subscription to Paranormal News. Thanks for joining us today on Paranormal News. If you'd like to sponsor or advertise on Paranormal News, please send us an email at paraxnews@aol.com. You can listen to Paranormal News on the ParaX radio network at www.para-x.com. Please check out their other fine shows and hosts, or join us at paranormalnews.mypodcast.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Bonnie Vent.